Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into the surprisingly deep Renaissance-era history behind absolutely the most famous chess opening in the entire world. We're going back over 500 years to uncover how a single man forever changed the way humanity approaches those 64 squares. If you love history, strategy, or just a really good origin story, you are definitely in the right place.
Section 1, the name you know.
All right, before we meet the man, we've got to look at the moves that made his name immortal. You have likely played, or at least faced, this famous three-move sequence yourself. Step 1, pawn to e4, pawn to e5. Step 2, knight to f3, knight to c6. And step 3, the defining move, bishop to b5. It's the absolute battleground of classical chess. But there's a wild secret behind the name itself. You see, when a commentator or a player says they're playing the Ruy López, they usually just mean this sequence. But it is so much more than that. Because Ruy López isn't just a sequence of moves, it's actually a guy, a man of the cloth specifically, hailing from a town called Zafra in Spain. During the 16th century, this humble priest dominated the globe as the undisputed chess titan for 20 solid years. Just imagine that. Long before the era of grandmasters, Elo ratings, or internet chess servers, there was a Spanish priest sitting at a wooden board, completely outclassing everyone he met.
Section 2, rise to royal favor.
So how exactly does a priest end up catching the eye of the most powerful people in Europe? Well, to understand that, we have to understand the era. In the Spanish Renaissance, chess was viewed as way more than a mere game to pass the time. It was a profound symbol of intellect and a strict test of character among the nobility. It was essentially a stand-in for battlefield tactics and courtly grace. If you were brilliant at chess, it meant your mind was razor-sharp, disciplined, and worthy of immense respect. Because of this deep cultural reverence for the game, Lopez's incredible prowess didn't just win him local fame, it earned him prestigious royal patronage directly from the court of King Philip II. The king was so thoroughly impressed by Lopez that he awarded him a striking gold chain featuring a rook piece. Lopez proudly wore this chain as the ultimate badge of his status. It was basically the Renaissance equivalent of a heavyweight championship belt, proving to everyone he was the king's chosen intellectual champion. But it wasn't just his standard play that won him this favor. He routinely amazed his contemporaries with his legendary ability to play blindfold chess. Now, if you've never seen this, it's exactly what it sounds like. He could play entire, complex games against top challengers without ever looking at the pieces. This showcased an unbelievably deep internal grasp of the board, an ability to hold 64 squares and up to 32 pieces perfectly in his mind's eye, while calculating dozens of moves ahead. To the 16th century observer, this must have looked like pure magic. Section 3, the birth of modern theory. Okay, so here is where Lopez completely reinvents chess, shifting it from a game of chance to a legitimate science. In 1561, he took all of that internal genius and put it to paper. He published a groundbreaking treatise titled Libro de la invención liberal y arte del juego del axedrez. Now, don't let the super long 16th century title intimidate you. What matters here is that this was the very first book to approach chess like a rigorous science rather than just an informal, haphazard pastime. Before this book, chess advice was basically just a collection of neat parlor tricks. Lopez completely changed all of that. He didn't just invent moves, right? He invented a whole new system of thinking. First, he actually categorized openings, grouping them so players could study them systematically. He analyzed positions critically instead of just playing by feeling. He taught players to value early development, getting your pieces into the game quickly. He stressed piece coordination, making sure your entire army actually worked together. And perhaps most importantly, he advocated for long-term pressure over instant, desperate attacks. He was literally playing the long game while everyone else was just looking for a quick knockout. Think about the stark contrast between the two approaches at the time. On one side, you have the medieval style, promoted by older writers like Pedro Damiano, which relied heavily on quick, reckless attacks, basically hoping your opponent would blunder. You know, what we might call hope chess or lucky moves today. But on the other side, you have the Lopez style, patience, center control, real structural planning. Lopez realized that if you build a fundamentally sound position, the tactical victories will naturally present themselves. You don't need to hope for a mistake when you can scientifically engineer a victory. Section 4, First International Chess Matches. Let's actually see this theoretical framework tested out in the real world. Tracking his incredible timeline, you can see how his dominance really spread across borders. In 1560, he traveled to Rome and absolutely dominated the top Italian players of the day. A year later, in 1561, as we just discussed, he published his life's work. But then we fast forward to 1575 for an event famously known as the Madrid Showdown. By this time, his reputation had set the entire continent on fire, and challengers were lining up, eager to take down the king of chess. This 1575 Madrid Showdown was a massive, massive spectacle. King Philip II himself hosted the absolute best Italian stars, Giovanni Leonardo di Bona and Paolo Boy, inviting them to Spain specifically to challenge his champion. Now here's the plot twist. Even though Lopez was eventually defeated by these younger Italian masters in this historic event, it didn't ruin his reputation at all. In fact, it did the exact opposite. Because this was essentially the first ever international tournament, it cemented his legacy in professional chess forever. He had elevated the game to a level where actual kings were hosting international sporting events just to see his theories tested. Section 5. A legacy that endures. As we wrap up this explainer, let's talk about why a guy from the 1500s still fundamentally dictates your Tuesday night chess games. While modern supercomputers running at billions of calculations per second might analyze his specific opening lines today to find tiny novelties or variations, it was his original methodology that truly survived. The way he categorized, the way he evaluated space and development, that methodology is the foundation of modern chess teaching. Every single time a beginner is taught to control the center of the board, they are literally being taught by the ghost of Ruy López. He is the visionary titan who essentially bridged the gap, permanently transforming chess from a chaotic medieval diversion, something you just played loudly in a smoky coffeehouse, into a highly systematic, disciplined science. He proved to the world that the game was deep enough to warrant a lifetime of serious, rigorous study. So now that you know the fascinating origin story of the man behind the famous moves, I want you to think about how his 16th century genius impacts your board today. The next time you confidently bring that bishop out to b5, take a second to remember the Spanish priest with the gold chain. Which brings me to a final question for you to ponder and explore. What is your absolute favorite variation of the Ruy López? There are dozens of ways this incredible opening can unfold, from the hyper-aggressive to the deeply strategic. I really hope this explainer gave you a brand new appreciation for the history behind those squares. Keep studying, keep playing, and keep learning.